it was a while coming, I suppose. We saw you play briefly in 2015, 2016, and you finally make it official. You are hanging them up, and you did that in recent weeks in Edmonton. I guess was it closure for you? Did it feel a little different knowing that the papers are filed and that was it for you?
Yeah, there's not even any papers. It's such a weird process.
I thought there was papers. I was told there were papers.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was under the impression of too. That there was like something you actually had to do, but apparently not. Apparently, you just have to tell people.
Oh,
you just show up for the press conference.
Yeah, it was. It was a long time coming. I didn't play it all last year and had hip surgery and stuff like that. Hardly played the year before, but my wife kind of urged me to make it official too. She said, just kind of plant a flag and say you're done already.
Yeah.
So it was good. Got to actually enjoy and kind of have a soft, I guess, retirement last year where, didn't play and, I took my kids to the games a few times and just kind of went back into fan mode. So it was good.
Now, you were still under contract. So was there a bit of disappointment in the sense of, I came out in January and saw a game, and I'll admit, so, I grew up Saskatchewan and Alberta, and I saw so many games at Rexall Place. And so I saw the first game at the Rogers Arena, and it just it didn't even feel like I was in Edmonton. Everyone's wearing McDavid jerseys. The team is really good, and the rink and the sound, everything's different. Do you regret not being able to kind of get in year one in that a new culture almost?
Not really. It was almost easier just to be done, I guess. You always want to miss out on fun and stuff like that. But I had my fun. A number of playoff runs and to win in Boston and to do all that, and it was good. So it was actually, I think, leaving the league under different circumstances. When you're younger. I'm 38. And like I said, I had a few good runs and some great memories of my own. So I don't really feel like I missed out on anything. I really feel that I had way more than I could have ever dreamed of. When I was younger, just to think I could get one game in the NHL. So I had a lot of fun. I took the kids to the games. We, I got to have a beer in the stands and just watch the games and cheer with them. And like I said, kind of go back to that, just enjoying the sport for what it is and not having to analyze it or think too much about it. It was actually really enjoyable. And it was a good year. Being from the Edmonton area, seeing people actually enjoying the games and having fun with it and getting playoff fever back was pretty great to be a part of.
So you are Mr. Fitness, and you mentioned having a beer, but how much of your lifestyle changes when you're officially retired? Because you can have maybe that extra beer. You're at the game.
The fork and knife is going to be huge for Andrew.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you have a carb here and there, Andrew.
Well, I've totally transitioned into cycling. I always biked a lot.
Really letting yourself go.
Yeah. So I've been actually trying to drop a lot of weight because apparently hockey weight doesn't work too well on the bike. So I just finished a 7-day stage race down in Colorado through the Rockies. And so I'm almost at, I think, 10,000 kilometers for the year. So I haven't exactly retired in the easiest way possible, but I love it. I love sports. I played a ton of sports when I was growing up, everything from rugby to lacrosse to hockey and snowboarding, all that kind of stuff. And really, being done hockey just means that I don't really have to be as careful as I was before. I now can, get on a heli ski trip or something like that, or like I said, do stuff like this where you can get some bigger bike rides and trips like that. So I've really enjoyed it. It's a lifestyle that my wife and I and our kids kind of base a lot of time on. I guess it's awesome.
10,000. That's not even a real number.
Yeah,
that's not a thing. You may as well have said 1 million.
What is the circumference of the Earth?
It's not 10. Not 10,000.
I don't know. Is it?
I don't know. It's like the ocean. No, Smooth lines. Yes. What are you talking about? Andrew Ference joins us. It's Andrew Walker. It's Ben at Sportsnet 590 here in Toronto. So you had said your dream was to just play that one game in the NHL. You were an 8th round pick, and I don't get to, there's not even 8 rounds anymore. Yeah. But I wonder, because we're talking about what playoffs do to development, and we went through that. The circumference of the world, by the way, is 40,000. So
yeah,
you're,
so you got a ways
so
to
you're
go.
a quarter. You're the quarter of
3
the
more
way there.
years, you'll be there.
Yeah, this summer. So okay, so we're talking about playoff runs. So I want to ask, like, when you really felt that you came into your own and you said, you know, I feel like I'm really here to stay. Maybe it was because you played 18 playoff games for the Pens in 2001, but then you did shuttle back and forth a little bit from that time on. But then in Calgary, and we always remember the run in 03-04, you played all 26 playoff games, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, and then it feels like you were really there to stay year in and year out.
Yeah, well, I got great advice when I was in junior from Brent Peterson, who was my coach down in Portland. And he really always harped on the fact that if you can survive the NHL for kind of 3 years and establish yourself as a player for 3 years, then your foot's in the door. And after that, you know, you've made it, and you can screw it up, but, you know, as long as you play solid and continue to improve, at least your foot's in the door. So that was always kind of how I viewed it. You know, the first 3 years, kind of that first contract that you have of that's do or die. And so I tried to scrap my way out of the AHL when I got sent down, and did everything I could to spend as little time there as I could, because I knew, you know, for a guy my size, it would be pretty easy to just get shuttled there and kind of stay there. So, you know, I fought like a dog to get out of that situation. And then really, it's fortunate timing, you know, for a lot of guys. I mean, I went into a situation in Pittsburgh with some injuries. You know, we got into the playoffs and had a great run. And, you know, I did my job. You know, played decent enough to get some ice time. And I mean, there's times during that first time that I experienced NHL playoffs where I was on the ice for a power play, and it was Yager, Lemieux, Kovalev, and Marty Straka. And it was just like looking around, and you know, I was obviously the one that didn't really belong, but somehow I was there, and you make the most of it. And so, even something like that, just establishing the fact that you can hang in the playoffs and you can play and just get a few games under your belt, I think did a tremendous amount for my career. Right, it gets you that second contract and that second look, and then from there on in, you know, obviously the run in Calgary just solidifies that. But a lot of it, it's just so much of it's out of your control, right? You know, you can work your bag off and do all the stuff that you're supposed to, but really you need good timing, and you need the right coach and the right system and a good playoff run to sometimes establish yourself like that. So I was very, very fortunate.
So if you were still playing, it would be maybe difficult to rank because you'd be worried about pissing somebody off. But now you're not, and that you retired last week, so I can ask you this. So can you actually rank? So you play with Hall of Famer to be Marian Hossa in Portland, Yager and Lemieux in Pittsburgh, Iginla in his prime in Calgary. You saw the best of Jerome. Bergeron and Chara in Boston, to name a couple, and then Connor McDavid for just. I think you played the 6 with Connor. I'm not sure if he was injured, but Connor McDavid, you've seen him up close and personal, 6 games in Edmonton before you bow out. Can you rank the most impressed you've been?
Oh man, it's tough because I've been so lucky. I mean, I think Mario, for me, I mean, he carried the aura of, like, I had his jersey as a kid, right? So, I mean, I grew up watching Mario, and then the chance to get to play with him. I mean,
when Connor probably had yours, so
special. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I think only my mom had my jersey. So, but you know, I always tell the story. Obviously, Mario was head and shoulders above, I think, everybody, you know, that I played the game with. Connor's going to be ridiculous. But I always tell the story about in Pittsburgh where it was Lemieux and Yager, but the guy that impressed Lemieux and Yager was Kovalev. I mean, especially in practice, right? Like with his hands and what he could do with the puck, and his skill set was beyond ridiculous. And so I always liked Kovy a lot, just from his creativity and just his raw skill. You know, I think he was probably the most frustrating player on earth for a lot of coaches, you know, during his career, but he was the guy that could impress the superstars.
Andrew, I got a recycling question. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Ben here is
the right answer.
Ben here is passionate about recycling and raccoons.
Well,
so,
that's the thing.
Yeah.
So, okay, the green bin where you put your organic waste, Andrew, right? Like, and it's a big issue in the city of Toronto because they've the scientists from around the globe have tried to build a bin that is impenetrable by the raccoon hand.
It's not that big of an issue.
They've yet to get to that point because those raccoons, they're crafty. They got opposable thumbs. They can open those things up. Explain to me why I need to put my organic waste in one of those green bins, because it seems to me, granted, my expertise does not lie in this field. Yours does. You're an environmentalist. You've done work with David Suzuki. Seems to me you put organic waste in the garbage can, it's going to end up in a landfill, which is in the ground as well. It's natural. What am I missing here?
Well, when it goes into landfill, it doesn't properly break down, and then that's where you get the bad methane production in the landfills from rotting food. Yeah, so it doesn't properly decompose, and then the methane can be pretty bad. So when it goes into the compost facility, the food actually breaks down really quickly, and you don't get those, the bad off-gassing off of it, and you get good soil to use as well.
Yeah, read a book.
It's more about just breaking down quickly. But you can go full nerd mode and just put a worm bin in your basement.
What?
Yeah.
Hold on. So you want me to put my garbage in my basement?
Yeah. So take your organics. You can Google red worms.
Yeah.
So those are the compost superheroes, right? So you can just go full geeky earth hero mode and put one of those in your basement, and the worms will just eat all the garbage.
I live in a condominium.
Yeah, I have a problem living under the same roof as worms. I don't know. It's just
you do already technically. I'll be honest, you don't want to hear, and I'll try to be better. I promise you. But the last time I recycled was about 15 years ago. That's because the radio. I've recycled since, but the radio station I was working at, we had all these bins, right? We're very progressive. There was recycling, and there was, organics, and there was garbage and paper, and everything was separated. And then I went out behind the radio station one day for some reason, and the janitor was just throwing everything into the same bin. So he ruined it for all of us. So
that is bad.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll try to be better.
Yeah, that's no good. Is styrofoam recyclable?
Not as far as I know.
Okay.
I think that stuff's pretty bad. Yeah.
All right, this is a bad segue, but how is so Connor McDavid just signs and he takes, less, quote unquote, $12.5 million, and you just said yourself, you saw him and he's going to be ridiculous. Everything is the Oilers just traded Jordan Eberle for Ryan Strome, and everything is money, everything is cap, and it all has to be looked through this cap filter, and that's always kind of been a thing, but no more than it has in 2017. Have you noticed the game changing that way? Does it even change the dynamics in a room?
Well, I mean, everything's related, I guess, in a certain way. But you definitely, I think, as soon as you get over the age of 30 now, you feel like you have a giant target on your back for elimination. So the room gets younger. But in saying that, I mean, the young guys coming into the league now are so much more ready than I was, or my generation, or even just a few years ago. So, I mean, I guess it's a combination of things, right? Guys are ready earlier. They're performing at an incredible level much earlier than my generation did. But I think that, the whole contract structure's changed. I mean, when I first came in, all the old guys on the team had the biggest contracts because they earned them from the career, and experience was worth a lot more, right? You had to pay a lot more for experience. Now that's just not the case, right? It's kind of, what have you done for me lately? And you're very, I think guys feel a little bit more expendable, and maybe that's the way it should be. I think, I'm not saying that it's better or worse. From a fan's point of view, I'd rather have money spent on my team for somebody that's performing in the moment, not for something that they did 3 years ago, right? And that seems like it makes more sense. Whereas when I first came into the league, it was more about what you've done in the past than what you're doing, right at the moment. So worked for me, but it's not exactly the way it should be, in sports.
Even the way it's going, and young players being at such a premium, it seems unfathomable, even now, that your Boston Bruins team, moved off of Tyler Seguin at such a young age. Do you remember what you thought of when you heard about that deal, and did you think it was necessary?
I wasn't really sure what. Honestly, I think I heard it from somebody in the neighborhood, and I thought they're kidding around, right? Just because, Segs was had hardly even tapped into any of his potential, right? And yeah, to move him out at such a young age, I didn't really understand it much at all. So I mean, I still don't really, but like I said,
People in Boston don't understand it either, especially the return they got.
Yeah, and I think that unfortunately for Segs too, I mean, people always go looking for answers, right? And they thought that he partied too much or something like that. But I mean, I saw him all the time. He partied once in a while, but not that much. So I mean, Segs is a good kid. He still, when he comes into town, comes over for dinner once in a while, and I got along with him really well, and yeah, never really could quite figure out why he was gone.
Andrew Ference, our guest. Before we let you go, just you mentioned some of the stuff you're doing. What's going to be taking up your time now that it's officially official in the next coming years?
Well, the last couple of years of my career, I finished some school up, so I got involved with actually down the path of sustainability and whatnot. So I actually partnered up with some guys out of San Francisco, and I'm partner in a venture capital fund now, and we fund technology that's focused on sustainable agriculture, and yeah, I get to scout really awesome new technology that people are coming up with, and see how it applies to farming and using less resources. So yeah, I'm doing a bit of that, and then I'm sure I'll find some more stuff to fill out the time other than cycling.